Zoey Sidwell, travel plans.
Awesome. So I saw travel plans and it caught me off guard. I really enjoy projects that have unexpected twists, and this one definitely does. Um, why was this a story you wanted to tell?
Because we have that in common. I really enjoy, I'm a little twisted, in case you couldn't figure it out from the subject matter, but I like things where I don't know where it's going, or I think I know where it's going, but then I'm wrong, you know? And so that script spoke to me for that reason.
This story seems very difficult to tell, especially in under 4 minutes. Um, how much planning goes into something like this, and how much dedication did you need to get from both your actors in order to make sure that this came out the way it did?
Um, I got lucky, really, because my cast and my crew are fantastic. So I got a lot of support. But as I'm sure you know, um, it's all about the pre-production
Mhm.
process. So you get to spend a lot of time planning and planning the day. The shoot was only one day, but the before part
Mhm.
took weeks, just to make sure that we have the plan, the shots planned, that we had time to rehearse the actors before the shoot, and that we could do the location scouting, get everything in order. And so that was critical to having. I mean, you're still going to get surprises on the shoot day. That's just the way it goes, but that was critical to making that work. And then, like I said, I have a fantastic cast and they were on board, so very lucky.
That's awesome. When I started watching this, it felt like I was entering something in the middle of the situation, but at the same time, I really didn't need to know what happened before because everything that's happening at that point, and I'm trying to keep this as big as possible to not give any spoilers, but
Appreciate that.
yeah, for what's happening during these 3.5 minutes really captivates you. For you, what was interesting about this story that uh you really wanted to bring out a lot of these like you said, twisted parts of these characters.
Well, for us, it'll be twisted. For, of course, the characters, it is not. It's just
Mhm.
life is normal. This is one of those cases where basically what you think is a limitation winds up being a bonus. And in this case, we had limits in budget, which is we needed a single location, something that can be shot in a single day. And so the story has to carry everything. The story is king. And so I was looking for something where the story itself featured, because I'm not going to have the budget or the money to dazzle you with anything else. And that's where Krista, the writer, Krista Amigone, she's also the actress who plays Erin, she kind of knocked it out of the park. When I first solicited scripts, I got several, lots of great stories, but hers stood out precisely because so much happens in 3.5 pages. You enter, you don't really need the before, but you enter in the middle, which is what I like to do anyway. And the story takes you to a place where you think it's going to go. There is a reveal where you think, that's the reveal, but then it takes it a step further. And she did all that in such an economical way.
Mhm.
And so I was really impressed. And, it really boils down to the writing. It always boils down to the story. So to me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, I know what to do with this.
Definitely. And given a larger budget, would you want to make something, that includes a little bit more background, or would you want to go further into the future with characters like these?
Oh, with this particular story, I kind of think it's kind of I think of it as like a bonbon, It's
Mhm.
like it's just like a little treat, and I think it's the exact length it needs to be. Yes, you can always make a backstory, but I think what makes this work well for me is that you can just dispense all that. It just boils down and whittled it down to the essence of the story. You don't really need anymore. So if I had the huge budget, I'd probably pick a different story altogether. I don't know that I would do much with this. I mean, you can always make it larger. You can always show the wedding for a lot of money with a lot of extras, but it's not essential, you know, for
Mhm.
this particular story.
That's a great point. It's not really essential to show anything else because so much happens in under 4 minutes that as an audience member, you're left shocked, you're left wanting more, but at the same time, it's very satisfying. Um, for the pacing of this, what inspired it? Because like you said, so much information happens in under 4 minutes. So what inspired this pacing?
Well, I kind of wanted to go with sort of a, because the subject matter is a little bit taboo,
Hmm.
I wanted sort of grounded, naturalistic pacing and performances. In real life, no one sits there and gazes at the stars and just takes deep moments to think. So I wanted the pacing to reflect that. I wanted to say, oh, this might be weird for us and we have to play catch up as the audience, but the characters don't, right?
Hmm.
And so for them, the pacing is natural for me. It didn't feel like lived in, like you have to sit there and think about it because that's not how people normally communicate when they're in the know.
Hmm.
So I prefer stories where the audience kind of gets it after the fact. They're like, oh, versus an audience kind of predicting or being ahead of where the characters are. Like they are knowing what's going to come next. And so that's why the pacing sort of just to me doesn't feel fast or slow. It just feels like this is a natural conversation. That's where my thought was.
It definitely feels that way, and the placement of the camera is interesting because you're in a very tight space, but it feels like you backed up a bit. It's not as intimidating. What kind of discussion did you have with your cinematographer or DP in order to get these very beautiful shots that you got?
First of all, I have to give props to the DP, Marilyn Flores. She kicked ass. Can I say that?
Yeah.
she was fantastic. And she and I, when we first started talking about the shot list, I told her that what I have in mind is sort of to start kind of like outside because we were
Hmm.
observing this. And I knew we were going to get claustrophobic at some point. And so when we start there's the peripheral, I don't want to give too much away, but there's the peripheral conversation at the
Hmm.
beginning that could be exterior. And I knew that I wanted to push in when we got to the heart of the matter, the heart of the discussion. And I knew that would be claustrophobic. So it's a matter of taking opportunities to get away from that. Like when Ben comes in, it can break that out and we can go back outside again because we're like this. And I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of expand when it makes sense to. So I sort of picked my moments when we're outside and when we're in.
Hmm.
And so the thought was like, when do we want to be in there with them? Even if we don't want to, when do we have to be inside the car with them? And
Hmm.
when can we step back and just take a moment? And so based on what the script was giving me and just the opportunity, I took those opportunities to step away when I could. And I just wanted to be uncomfortable inside
Hmm.
with them when I could.
That's awesome. With the camera placement, something being uncomfortable and it being taboo, how do you create, that comfort for the cast in order for them to give you the performance that they did? Because it's this they do very much have to, nail it in order for this to work.
Again, got so lucky. So I wasn't familiar with Krista before I worked on her script. And then as we worked together, I asked her if she wanted, I had seen her materials online and I knew she was a great actor. And I asked her if she wanted to play Aaron. And without giving too much away, we knew the person who plays Jack has to look a certain way. And she knew someone that she had worked with before. And I saw his material and thought he was great. And because they had worked together in the past, it made for such comfort
Hmm.
on set. And I also had a rehearsal period with them when they came into my house. In my house, they came into my home, and just I kind of just let them play and see where they wanted to go with this, just so that we can, throw everything at it and see what feels right to them. Because the most important, I have an acting background. The most important thing a director could do for you is really just make you feel comfortable enough
Mhm.
and to play, which is what this is. And they were both so great because they like to play and they just kind of jumped in. And Sean Michael Boozer, who played Ben,
Mhm.
I didn't know this before, but I saw him in one of Krista's shorts. We had a mutual friend in common. We didn't even know until we started working together. So I had been, I'd known him for years and I've been a fan. And Krista had worked with him in the past and just made such natural it just made natural sense for him to join the project and it just fit. It all just fit together. But a lot of it is just pure luck because the cast is just fantastic. It's nothing without the casting crew.
Definitely. And you're bringing this to the festival circuit. When you sit down with an audience, what are you expecting to get? What kind of reactions are you looking for?
I think this is one of those shorts where it's when it's done, you're like, it's after the fact
Hmm.
reaction, which is like, oh, that's what this is. Like, I think in what I've seen in test audiences among friends, like you're kind of playing catch up a bit because you're
Hmm.
expecting it to go in a certain direction. And then the joy for me is to have someone finish it and then get it,
Hmm.
you know? So assuming it goes according to my fantasy life in my brain, I would like the audience to just be like, ah, after it. It's like, and that's a pleasure for me. So I like the idea of presenting something that you're not expecting. I like, as an audience member, I like that feeling when I have something that's unexpected. So if I could do that for an audience member in turn, that would feel like a gift.
Hmm. I think you will definitely get that reaction. It is a fantastic short. And thank you very much for taking some time to talk about it.
Oh no, thank you so much. I really appreciate